Hello again, fight fans. Hope you're having a happy holidays and you're keeping it safe in front of New Year's. Montero Unboxing Year-End Awards for 2017. We're going through these one by one, and right now I want to talk about Fight of the Year. We had some good ones this year, right? Different varieties. We had some technical chess matches happening, and we had some all-out brawls. For me, though, is a clear runaway favorite that was the biggest fight in years. We'll get to that in a second. Runners up, Miguel Roman versus Orlando Salido. Roman wins a TKO 9. This is December 9th on HBO. Now, on a weaker year, this would be a top candidate. But this year, I felt this fight felt a little bit short of top 4 or 5 fight of the year contender. It's maybe in the top 10, but Orlando Salido was badly faded. That's what we saw in there against Roman. And you saw one guy beat the fight out of another guy. It's just that Salido is such a tough bastard. It kept coming back and had his moments and almost had Roman out early. That really did make this a pretty good action fight brawl. This was nowhere near the level Orlando Salido's fight with Francisco Vargas was. Nowhere near that level, even in terms of craft and back and forth. After a certain part, it was just Roman beating the hell out of Salido. But the first, I would say, 5 or 6 rounds, really, really good stuff. Miguel Burchell, KO 11 over Francisco Vargas, back in January 28th. Man, it feels like forever ago. This year we had so much action. It feels like that fight was 2 or 3 years ago for some reason to me. But Burchell really, really put himself on the map in this fight and really solidified himself as a top 130-pounder. In fact, you'd probably rate him number 2 right now. Obviously Lomachenko's the man, but Burchell's probably right there at number 2 after this performance. Really, really good action fight. For Vargas, man, his last 3 or so fights before that were brutal. He's just had a long run of tough, brutal fights. For Burchell, though, this was a career-defining win for him. He came back later in the year and got another win, more of a technical display from him. But I hope a fight between him and Lomachenko can be made in 2018. We'll see. Badu Jack's draw against James DeGale, January 14th on Showtime. I thought this was a very good, underrated fight. There were times where it was a little more technical. DeGale using a lot of movement. I thought too much movement at times. It actually gave away some rounds. I thought Jack won this fight. I thought Jack won about 7 rounds to 5. I was okay with the draw, but I just thought Jack closed the show better. But both guys were down. DeGale got really beat up. I think he got his tooth knocked out. Good quality fight, and this was unifying titles. So I thought that this was a good, solid fight. I don't know if it's top 5, but, in the top 10 for fights of the year. Srisaket Soa Rungvisai, his majority decision win over Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez, March 18th at the Garden in New York. I was there for that one. Great, great fight. This absolutely is in the top 2 or 3 fights of the year, in my opinion. Chocolatito down early, cut, bleeding, fights back. Has moments in the middle rounds, has moments in the late rounds. Rungvisai closed the show well, came in to win, and I felt Gonzalez won that fight. I thought he did a little bit more, but I can see why some of you out there thought Rungvisai won. And of course, in the rematch, Rungvisai left no doubt. But good quality fight with a lot of two-way action back and forth in highly underrated craft. A lot of you guys, just don't appreciate the little fighters enough, and you don't appreciate inside game. Some people think inside fighting is punching to the balls and holding, because that's what certain fighters do, and they call it inside fighting. Inside fighting sometimes requires you taking punches, because you have to take one to give one, but you roll with shots. You see a right hand coming, you roll with it, you come back. You duck under it. It might slip off you. You come back with an uppercut. So sometimes to the untrained eye, people look at some inside fighting, particularly with these little guys that like to bang in close quarters, and they think, man, there's no defense here. They're just teeing off on each other. But if you watch closely, dudes are shifting their shoulders, they're shifting their weight, They're rolling with punches. They're slipping. They're sliding. There's craft going on the inside. They're eating the punch, but they're taking some of the stank off of it, some of the mustard off of it with their subtle movement. And I thought that's what we were seeing in this fight. So again, I still feel Gonzalez edged it. I can live with it though if you feel Rungvisai won. Either way, great fight. How about Saul Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Triple G Golovkin? Their fight on September 16th in Las Vegas. I was there for that one as well. Outstanding fight. This was the antithesis of Mayweather-Pacquiao because neither guy was fighting to protect their O. Well, Canelo doesn't have an O anymore, but neither guy was fighting to not lose. They were both going for it and taking chances in a calculated way. And they didn't wait 6-7 years to make the fight. They didn't gouge fans as bad. They did gouge fans a little bit, but they didn't gouge fans nearly as bad as Mayweather-Pacquiao. And it was entertaining. We got a great fight out of it. Now, unfortunately, Adelaide Bird's scorecard and the lack of accountability from Bob Bennett and that corrupt organization there in Nevada, that put a stain on it. But if you actually watch the fight, it was a fantastic fight. And I think years from now, when people watch it, because these two are going to fight 2 or 3 times, the next generation of boxing fans, right, that is just getting into the sport. And some of you out there are going to be saying, hey, man, check out these fights between Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin. I think people are going to be looking back at those fights the way some of us look back at, I don't know, the last generation, where you had Manny Pacquiao and Eric Morales, or Pacquiao in the fights with Marquez. You know, that level of craft and ability and talent. So great fight. But obviously the fight of the year, Anthony Joshua, TKO 11 over Vladimir Klitschko, April 29th. And this fight probably also had the round of the year. That 5th round, AJ dropped Vladimir early and cut Vladimir. He looked hurt. A lot of people at this point who thought this was going to be a blowout by Joshua and never really believed in Klitschko thought, here we go, this fight's over. Well, the old man got up. And he didn't just get up, he dominated the rest of the round. It was a 10-8 round from that point on. In fact, I scored it a 9-9 round. AJ was wobbling back to the corner at the end of the 5th round. He had absolutely nothing left. I think one judge, Steve Weisfeld, the only judge who scored the fight correctly, the other 2 judges turned in horrible cards. But Steve Weisfeld had that 5th round 9-9 as well because of Klitschko's domination, the last half of it. And then in the 6th round, Klitschko puts Joshua down. And the young lion rises. And he weathers the storm and proves that he's legit. So Klitschko validated himself. And so did Joshua in different ways in this fight. It not only lived up to the hype, it exceeded it. Both of these guys in the ring, you had the last great heavyweight champion, post Lennox Lewis. And you had his heir apparent, the guy who everyone thinks is going to be the new guy. And he passed the test. And I get it. Klitschko coming off a massive layoff, years past his best. This is not the fighter who beat Alexander Povetkin, who beat Ruslan Shagayev, who dominated David Haye. Not that fighter. Years past that. Fine. Yes, coming off a loss. I get all of that, guys. But Klitschko still came in shape. He came in highly motivated, more motivated than he had been in years. His best camp in years. He went into that Tyson Fury fight, had a poor camp, took Fury lightly, had a poor corner that wasn't helping him out. Really didn't help him out in the match against Joshua either. But this was a rejuvenated Vladimir. Physically, didn't quite have it the way he used to. I noticed some of the right hands were landing high on Joshua's head. 3-4 years ago, they would have been landing on the chin. The left hook was missing all night. Joshua was timing it. It would have been a half second quicker 2 or 3 years ago. So granted, all those elements were there, but sometimes those are the things that make a fight great, because a sharper version of Klitschko would have jabbed and grabbed and knocked Joshua out within 5 or 6 rounds probably. That knockdown you saw in the 6th round, Vladimir Klitschko with Emmanuel Stewart in his corner, that fight does not go the distance. It doesn't go past the 6th, 7th, 8th round. That fight's over. Joshua is simply too stationary and too easy to hit with right hands. But this being a faded version of Klitschko, his powers weren't peak level, and this being a just enough experience, just confident enough version of Joshua who's seen a couple different styles, fought a couple of tall, big guys, had a title coming in. Perfect timing for both of these guys. And they both put it on the line, and we had a great, great fight. A lot of you have asked me, was this the best heavyweight fight you've seen in how long? For me, you got to go back to the 90s. You got to go back to, I think, Bo and Holyfield. You really, really do. And I rate Vladimir Klitschko higher all time than both Bo and Holyfield. And I think Joshua, by the time he's said and done, his career is over, he's going to rate higher than both Bo and Holyfield all time. So when you really start thinking about it, historically, this fight's going to age very, very well. Heavyweight fighters, especially in the modern era, are not appreciated much until they're long retired. Lennox Lewis was criticized very often, particularly by American fans and media in his career. Now he's beloved. He's seen as a top 5 all-time great heavyweight by many, many people on both sides of the pond now. Vladimir Klitschko, Anthony Joshua, their fight 10, 20 years from now, people are going to be looking back at it as a signature hallmark passing of the torch kind of fight. So let me know what you guys think. Comment below, like, share, subscribe. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. I'll see you at the fights in 2018.